My journey began during a small gathering with friends. What happened that day forever changed the way I see life. My name is Sarah, and I've always prided myself on being organized and cautious. Every time I attend a party, I make it a point to ask about the food to avoid any potential allergens. But on that fateful day, in a moment of distraction, I bit into a cupcake that seemed harmless. Suddenly, I felt my throat tighten, as if an invisible hand was squeezing it shut. Everything felt like it was collapsing in on me, and a wave of despair washed over. I immediately realized this was a severe allergic reaction to peanuts. As my body gave way, it felt like I was being pulled into another world. There, an oppressive darkness engulfed everything, carrying with it a bone-chilling cold that seeped into my very core. The ground beneath me was cracked and desolate, but from those cracks oozed a black, viscous sludge that resembled bleeding wounds. The sheer horror of it all made my steps falter, as if my entire being was sinking into a nightmare. A nauseating stench hung in the air, so overwhelming that even days later I could still sense it lingering in my mind. The most horrifying part, however, was the people in this world. They were no longer human. Their flesh decayed, with festering sores leaking greenish fluid. Many staggered aimlessly through the mire, while others crawled forward like lifeless husks being dragged by some unseen force. Above me, the sky suddenly thickened into an impenetrable mass, filled with a relentless buzzing sound that grew louder and louder. I saw monstrous creatures resembling locusts, but they were as large as small birds, their glowing red eyes piercing through the darkness like flames. They swarmed the crowds, unleashing piercing screams that echoed in my ears. These locusts devoured everything in their path, leaving behind only bones and ashes. I wanted to scream, but my voice was caught in my throat, paralyzed by fear. In the midst of my panic, I was mysteriously pulled into a different scene, a futuristic city. Towering buildings of glass and steel loomed above, while massive screens displayed the faces of smiling leaders. Their expressions were polished and rehearsed, but in this context, they felt like hollow facades. Beneath them, lines of people moved forward with blank, lifeless eyes, clutching small, blinking devices embedded into their arms. These devices looked like shackles fused with their flesh. Inside the buildings, machines hummed with an eerie precision. What they promised as liberation was nothing more than a cruel facade. I watched as the system extracted humanity from these individuals, reducing them to empty shells. Their eyes, once windows to their souls, now reflected nothing but despair and loss. Then a light appeared. At first, it was just a faint flicker, like a distant star, but it quickly grew, overpowering the darkness. It swept through the city like a tidal wave, shattering the chains and washing away the pain and suffering. In the center of this brilliance stood a figure, majestic and commanding. He wore a robe of pure, radiant white, woven from the very light itself. His eyes held not only authority, but an unfathomable compassion that pierced through my fear. As he approached me, his gaze met mine. It was as if he could see every fear, every mistake, and every ounce of pain I had ever carried. Yet, in his eyes there was no judgment, only an overwhelming love and a silent promise: you are never alone. The brilliance of his presence reminded me of the verses from the book of Revelation, the Lamb who comes to bring justice and restoration. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. Revelation 21:4. Around him, the water that began to flow through the city seemed to echo the cleansing waters of baptism. These streams, pure and crystal clear, not only healed but restored. The locusts that had once brought destruction fled before his light, recalling the plagues of Egypt and the ultimate triumph of God's power. All the technological devices and oppressive laws crumbled into nothingness. The people, once shackled, began to rise. Their scars faded, and they seemed to rediscover what it meant to be human. It was as if they were experiencing their own resurrection, emerging from the depths of despair into new life. He looked at me again and spoke, his voice resonating with authority and love. "I am the light of the world. Follow me, and you will not walk in darkness, but will have the light of life." John 8:12. His words penetrated my soul, filling me with a peace I had never known. I woke up in a hospital room. Everything was too vivid to dismiss as just a dream. The sensations, the images, and the emotions were all etched deeply into my memory. Life has felt different ever since. I no longer view the world through the same lens. The visions from that experience serve as a constant reminder of God's promises. I began to see my life not as a series of random events, but as a journey guided by His hand. I found new meaning in the smallest blessings, the warmth of morning sunlight, the chirping of birds, or the kindness in a stranger's smile. This experience also ignited in me a calling to share what I saw and felt, not as a mere recounting of a vision, but as a testimony to God's grace and power. I realized that the light I encountered wasn't meant for me alone. It was a message for all of us, a reminder that no matter how dark the world may seem, His light is always there, ready to guide and restore. So I share this with you, not to frighten or impress, but to remind you of a profound truth. The Lamb has already overcome, and His love is greater than any darkness. In Him there is hope, there is redemption, and there is life eternal. And sometimes, the light we seek is already within us, waiting for us to embrace it and let it shine. If you feel lost or burdened by the weight of the world, I urge you to seek Him. Turn to His Word, call out to Him in prayer, and let His light guide you. As He promises in Matthew 11:28, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." There is no darkness too deep that His love cannot overcome. Open your heart and let His light shine in your life today.